had surgery. These aren't props. This is medical. Oh, that's not any better. Between my first and second senior years of college, I was tasked with the weirdest repo job ever. I don't know how my mother and her brother thought that it was a good idea to ask me. Nah, it's all right. I'll be okay. I'll get used to it. I'll adjust. I don't know why my mother and brother thought, or mother and her brother thought it was a good idea to send me, stoner college weirdo, and my brother, a grunge musician roadie, to repossess, sort of rescue their mother's Malibu from my cousin, who just wasn't dealing with it. So my cousin lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and we lived in Seattle. And so we flew to Phoenix and met my uncle, and my uncle took us to Colleen's house, my cousin, and my uncle said, look, you haven't gotten this car licensed, or, basically the car was supposed to help my cousin Colleen grow up. Like, she inherited grandma's car, like Megan, and was supposed to deal with getting the license plates taken care of and the title and all of that, and wasn't dealing with it, so we got it. So this is a mid-'80s, probably 85, 86 Malibu. It's a boat. I mean, it's a huge two-tone blue, perfect grandma car, right? I mean, you can fit a couple bodies in the back. Or lots of canning stuff, right? Whatever. But at this point, my cousin's been driving it for a while and not taking care of it, so it's in a little bit of disrepair, and it has a California license plate on the back, or on the front, and a Phoenix license plate, Arizona license plate on the back, because in Arizona, it's only the law that you gotta have one in the back, because, they're wild, it's the Wild West there in Arizona. So the car, and it's a little rusted out, and it's kind of dirty in the back, so my brother and I don't give a shit. We're just gonna drive it across the desert and smoke joints, right? So we get the car and we hang out with my uncle, who rolls us a few dubs for the trip across the desert. And the plan is basically, my uncle's an old hippie, right? I mean, he went to Berkeley, and his method of dealing with his daughter is to ask his nephews to come take her car. I mean, the guy's kind of a slacker. So we take the Colleen's crying, and we're like, sorry, tough shit. And we take the car and we go hang out with my uncle, and we're kind of laughing and smoking joints and eating brownies and hanging out in his pool. And the next day we take off, and he's loaded us up with the necessities, and we're barreling across the desert in this Malibu from Phoenix to California. And the plan is basically to get. I have an ex-roommate, a college roommate, who I was in a band with in college, and he lives in LA, and so we're gonna meet him and score some more weed and go to Disneyland, and so our plan, we're barreling across the desert, listening to Nat King Cole and Tom Waits, and like looking for cool roadside attractions, and we stop at this hotel that has a big UFO in the front, and like all the cool stuff that you do in the desert between Phoenix and LA when you're baked. And we get to Disneyland, and we meet my friend Scott, and he's got this crazy strung out roommate, and we're enthralled. And so anyway, as you might imagine, two guys in their 20s driving this sort of creaky Malibu with mismatched plates, and making all the typical sort of guys in their 20s pot-smoking guy stops. We go to Disneyland and smoke a joint there, and it's great, and we ride Space Mountain, and then we go up to San Francisco and go to Haight-Ashbury, and we run out of pot, and we're like, this is the worst place to run out of pot. We're in Haight-Ashbury, this sucks. But we go to a bunch of head shops and buy souvenirs, and I get this hat, this baseball hat that says THC on the front, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I'm 22 and I'm dumb as fuck. and I'm baked. Wait, I'm not baked. What the hell? But I buy like a bong for my roommate back in college and a pipe for my other buddy. And so I have all this paraphernalia, but no pot. And we have our bags in the back of the car. And we leave, I don't know, it's a trend tonight. We leave San Francisco like in the middle of the night. And because we're running out of money and we're running out of time. And we cross the border. And we're going on PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, you know, because it's pretty, and you can just pull up into any sort of beachy campground and put a tarp out and camp, and it's cool. And you wake up in the morning and there's the ocean. It's amazing, and you don't even have to be baked to be blown away by that, right? So we cross the border into Oregon, and there's this. I wish I could remember the name of the town, and if I was allowed to use my phone, I'd look it up. We cross the border into Oregon on the Pacific Coast Highway, and there's this dinky-ass little town. And on the Pacific Coast Highway, I don't know if anyone has ever experienced this, but the speed limit will go from like 60 to 40 in the drop of a hat. So you can be, because you're going in and out of little coast towns. So I'm just barreling along, you know, wishing I had some pot and driving along, listening to Tom Waits and like, and zoom, we go through this little one light town, and the lights go, and we pull over. And my brother, right, he's 5 years older than me, and he's about that much taller than me. And this is the early 90s, and he's a roadie for grunge bands, right? And he's got hair that just sort of does this, and a beard that does that, and he's a belly that does this. And basically a big part of his job, besides carrying guitars and tuning them and setting up amps and shit, is to not let cops dig through musicians' shit, right? I mean, that's just that, like, you don't need to see what's in that bag, fuck you, and, you know, we have rights, and that's sort of my brother's. That's his mode, and he's so grown up, you know, he's 27, and I'm 22, right? And I'm like, man, I just got insured on my parents' insurance again after getting my first speeding ticket. Whatever you need, man, whatever you need. And so it's like kind of like Cheech and Chong. I mean, it's except just like dumb suburban white guy and older dumb suburban white guy. So I'm driving. So the cop pulls us over, and he's like, "You mind getting out of the car?" And my brother's like, "Why does he need to get out of the car?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll get out." And I get out of the car, and he takes me back to the back of the car, and he's like, "You're going 20 over." And I was like, "No way, really? Yeah, you're going 20 over. That's pretty dangerous." "Oh man, oh no. Do you mind if I look through your car?" And I'm like, "No, there's nothing left. Go ahead." I mean, all the while I'm wearing this hat that says THC, right? Learned my lesson. I learned how to become stealthy about my usage after that. Except here I am, like, on camera talking about it. Maybe anyhow, so I agree to be searched. And then my brother gets out of the car, and he's like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "Well, we smoked our last joint last night." And so the next thing I know, boom, there's 3 more cop cars. The county sheriff is there. The canine unit is there. And, I guess the other officer on duty in that town wanted to get in on the deal too. So everybody's there. And I'm sitting on the curb just barely keeping my pants dry. And my brother is like this to the cops. "You don't need to search our stuff. You can't do that." Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Matt, they don't give a shit. It's a small town. They'll put us in jail overnight. They'll take, mom and dad will never see us again. The car will get parted out. We'll just be here breaking rocks, whatever. I don't know what they do." But my brother won't shut up, he's in their face, and there's like the coonhounds digging through our bags. And they find of course, all the paraphernalia that I bought in San Francisco. And they're just digging. They're convinced, and I'll tell you why. It's an 85 Malibu with the biggest trunk on earth, and it's got a California license plate on front and an Arizona license plate on the back. It is a smuggler's car. I mean, it is a drug runner's car. I mean, duh. And the dude driving it got the advertisement on front. So we sit there probably 3 hours while they're, the searching, getting the spare tire out underneath the car. They have the dogs just going around, and I'm losing it. And eventually, they come back with the paraphernalia, and they're like, if we confiscate this, you're just going to buy more, aren't you? And I'm like, well, yeah. So they didn't even take away my paraphernalia, and we got back in the car, and my brother was driving, and we start, they guide us out of town, and as we're getting to the county line, my brother's like, I'll bet your ass they planted something on us. So we get out and search the car again. I have never wanted a fucking joint so bad.